Good day everyone, this is Robert Lintayan, and today I will be discussing to you the chapter 4, which talks about validity and reliability. But this time I will be only discussing to you the validity. Now, it is not really new for us as a students to receive an errors in our examinations, in our assessment, during in our high school, elementary. So as a future educators, it is really crucial for us to learn about this chapter in order for us to avoid those mistakes. Let us first define what is validity. So according to the book, validity is a term derived from the Latin word validus, meaning strong. In view of assessment, it is deemed valid if it measures what it is supposed to. In contrast to what some teachers believe, it is a property of a test. It pertains to the accuracy of the inferences teachers makes about their students based on the information gathered from an assessment. So, validity, it measures what it is supposed to. It is the accuracy of the test. It is the extent to which it measures what it was designed to measure without contamination from other characteristics. Now, I have a question here. Do you think that the ruler is valid to measure my weight? No, a big no. Because we can only say that the thing is valid when what we measure is fit to the instrument that we use in measuring. For example, a test of reading comprehension should not require any mathematical ability. There are two other sources of information that can be used to establish the validity. They are the criterion-related evidence and construct-related evidence. Each of these shall be presented here. First, we have the content-related evidence. This validity pertains to the extent to which a test covers the entire domain of content. So this is about what you teach is what you assess. Kung sa man mga natudlo, mao po di mohang ipang hatag ng mga questions for your students. If your summative test covers up 4 topics, then it is only valid to get questions from each topics. So for example, you are a teacher sa grade 7 year students. So in first quarter, you have covered up 4 lessons. So you get questions each lessons in your assessment to make your assessment valid. Under sa content-related evidence, we have here the face validity. From the word face, this talks about the physical appearance of your assessment. The fonts, the spacing, tama ba pag-construct, everything that you can see in the test paper is what you call the face validity. Another one under the content-related evidence, we have the instructional validity, the degree to which the test content is actually taught. So another concept of what you teach is what you assess. Kung sarap po na imong gitudlo, maura po na imong ihatag na questions sa imong mga students. The inclusions of items that were not taken up in class reduces the validity. So let's say for instance, you are a teacher in a grade 7. So in first quarter, you covered up the lessons of 4, but yet you failed to discuss the last topic. So it is only valid to not include it in your assessment because you only discuss the 3 topics. So the inclusion of the lesson that you did not take up in class reduces the validity. So to improve the validity of assessment, natin gitawag na TOS, Table of Specification. So ito na siyang i-discuss now. Kung ang mga engineers na sila yung mga blueprints for construction, as future teachers, we also have what you call the test blueprints to construct questions or assessments for our students. This is a plan prepared by a classroom teacher as basis for test construction. So what are the importance of TOS? It ensures that a fair and representative questions appear on the test. With table of specification, nagiging fair ang distribution ng numbers of test questions based on the length of hours na naituro siya sa mga learners. It considers if pasok ba ang questions sa mga skills na dapat matutunan ng mga students. So let us now discuss or have an example for the table of specification. So before making a TOS, we have to know first, or we have to learn first, the Bloom's revised taxonomy. So what is this? It is a classification of thinking organized by levels of complexity. It gives teachers and students an opportunity to learn and practice a range of thinking and provide a simple structure for many different kinds of questions. So, importante ni siya para makabalota nga aha nga domain na hagbong ang atong mga questions. Could it be in remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, or creating? So, we can observe here that the Bloom's revised taxonomy has 6 levels. The remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. On level 1, which is the easiest one, it is suggested that this should take up most of your assessment para di ra po kayo lisod sa mga students nimo. Usually if kanang time limited lang po ang assessment. So in level 1 we have the remembering. This is about recalling information. Usually this is about recognizing, listing, describing, retrieving, naming, and finding. On level 2 we have the understanding, explaining of ideas or concepts. This is about usually on interpreting, summarizing, paraphrasing, classifying, and explaining. On level 2 we have the applying, using information in another familiar situation. Usually this is about implementing, carrying out, using or executing. On level 4 we have the analyzing, the breaking information into parts to explore understanding and relationships. So sa level 4 nag-start na ang average to hard. Kining level 1 to 3 easy to average. So in level 1 to 3 usually mao ni siya ang gisuggest nga mag-take up sa assessment or sa test paper because it is on easy or average. Now we have in level 5 the evaluating, the justifying a decision or course of action. This is usually about checking, hypothesizing, critiquing, experimenting, or judging. Di ba murag lisod jud siya. So in creating, we have the in level 6 we have the creating, generating new ideas, products, or ways of viewing things. Usually this is about designing, constructing, planning, producing, or inventing. So yeah, on level 6 it's really hard nga maghatag ka og questions or assessment about aning creating if imuhara pong time allotment is very short. So it is really suggested here, as you can observe here, that there is a suggested percentage of allocation. So in level 1 to 3 it takes up 70%. It is suggested to take up 70% of your assessment. And then in level 4 to 6, it is only suggested 30%. Yeah. Because level 4 and level 6, it needs higher order thinking skills. We also need to to think about the time allotment and kung harapod kaya sa imong students ang assessment to make it all. So let me show you an example of the table of specification. We have here I got this one from the internet. Now first we have the distribution of number of hours. So if hard ang imuhang learning competencies, imong topic, if it is hard, then it is only valid to give a longer period or mas taas nga time or mas taas nga minutes or hours nga imong ihatag ana para more pod nga ma-think pod sa imong estudyante na nga topic. So we have here naghatag sa atong example, we have nag-give siya og 15 number of hours sa first niya ka learning competency, dayon 5 number of hours sa yang second learning competency, and then 10 number of hours sa yang third competencies. So number of hours is equal to 30 number of hours. So after giving a number of hours or a number of time in your learning competency, the next step that you have to do is to get the percentage. We have to get the percentage in order for us to get para mabala nato pila ka items every learning competencies. So in order to get the percentage, we have here the formula. The percent is equal to number of hours in each objectives, then divided by total of hours times 100. Now, for example, we have here the number of hours, 15. 15 divided by 30, since the total number of hours in our example is 30. After dividing them, you multiplied it by 100, then the result would be 50. That's why we have here in the percentage, it is 50%. In the second learning competency is 5 divided by 30. The result would be, 5 divided by 30 times 100, the result would be 17%. 10 divided by 30 times 100, the result would be 33. So that's how easy to get the percentage. So now let's move on to how do we get the number of items each learning competencies. So we have here the formula. The number of items is equal to total number of items times the percentage. So itong mga result nga itong gisolve kaganina. So sa number of items sa itong example dire is 30 items. So let's go for example here. So total of items 30 times the percentage 50% is equal to 15. So that concludes that in learning competency number 1, imong number of test items there is 15. Now, in the learning competency number 2, we have here the number of items 30. If you multiplied it by the 17%, then the result would be 5. Just go. So there, we got the pagbahin-bahin sa number of items each learning competencies, and we can clearly observe nga kung unsa ang lisod nga topic or sa learning competencies, kung unsa ang lisod, diha pod ang daghan og number of items, no? So mao yun na siya ang valid. So the purpose of this COS is para mabahin ang options, not just in di lang siya puro analyzing, di lang siya puro remembering, napod siya yung mga different dimensions like atong gi-discuss na to ganina, and also para mabahin ang hours, ang number of test questions. So this COS is really important for us teachers para mabahin-bahin nato ang topic, ang mga number of hours, para ma-construct jud nato og ayo ang needed nga i-construct sa questionnaires. So after making a test questions, imo na siyang, it is your time to distribute those questions if siya na belong na domain. It could be na remembering, understanding, analyzing, or applying, or evaluating, or creating. So in example here, most of the test questions, it takes up the remembering and understanding domain, and also analyzing, because those are the easiest one considering the time allotment. So in evaluating, there are only 3. So it is valid. Test items that demand higher order thinking skills obviously require more time to answer, whereas simple recall items entail the least amount. Gives the average response times for each assessment task. This will be seen on the table 4.2. We have here the table 4.2, the time requirements for certain assessment tasks. If the type of your questions is alternative response or true or false, the time required to answer would be 20 to 30 seconds. If modified true or false, then 30 to 45 seconds. Sentence completion or one word fill in would be 40 to 60 seconds. Multiple choice with 4 responses in a lower levels, 40 to 60 seconds. Multiple choice, higher level, 70-90 seconds. Matching types, 5 stems and 6 choices would be 2 to 4 minutes. Short answer, 2 to 4 minutes. Multiple choice with calculations, 2 to 5 minutes. World problems or simple arithmetic, 5 to 10 minutes. Short essays, 15 to 20 minutes. Data analysis or graphing, 15 to 25 minutes. Drawing models or labeling, 20 to 30 minutes. Extended essays, 35 to 50 minutes. Validity suffers if the test is too short to sufficiently measure behavior and cover the content. Adding more time to the test may increase its validity. However, an excessively long test may be taxing to the students. Regardless of the trade-off, teachers must construct tests that students can finish within a reasonable time. It would be helpful if teachers also provide students with tips on how to manage their time. Let us now move on to the criterion-related evidence. So criterion-related evidence for validity refers to the degree to which test scores agree with an external criterion. As such, it is related to external validity. It examines the relationship between an assessment and another measure of the same trait. There are three types of criteria: achievement test scores, rating grades, and other numerical judgments made by the teacher, and career data. So in this validity, the criterion-related evidence, we follow principal theories. Under this, we have the concurrent validity and predictive validity. So from the word concurrent, currently, now, the assessment has been taken up now, currently. Then predictive validity, from the word predictive, the one test result predicted another result. Now let us discuss more about concurrent validity. This shows you the extent of the agreement between two measures taken up at the same time. It compares a new assessment with one that has already been tested and proven to be valid. So concurrent validity, it required two examination at the same time. For example, we have the nursing students. They taken up paper examination and practical examination. So if the results of those assessments have a significant correlation with each other, so therefore there is concurrent validity. If otherwise, then there is not. So in predictive validity naman, we have the ability of a test or other measurements to predict a future outcome. So for example, your score in the entrance exam can predict the college successful life if there is a significant correlation between your score in the entrance exam and your GPA, and there is a predictive validity. One examination predict another result. So we have now the construct-related evidence. This is like a psychological study. So a construct is an individual characteristic that explains some aspect of behavior. Construct-related evidence of validity is an assessment of the quality of the instrument used. It measures the extent to which assessment is a meaningful measure of an unobservable trait or characteristic. There are three types of construct-related evidence: theoretical, logical, and statistical. So construct-related evidence, this is about how well a test measured the concept it was designed to evaluate. So there are two methods of establishing construct validity. They are the convergent and divergent validations. Convergent validity occurs when measures of contracts that are related are in fact observed to be related. On the other hand, divergent is the completely opposite of the convergent po. It is the ability occurs when the constructs that are unrelated are in reality observed not to be. It is not related. So in 1989, Missick proposed a unified concept of validity based on an expanded theory of construct validity which addresses core meaning and social values in test interpretation and test use. This concept of unified validity integrates considerations of content, criteria, and consequences into a construct framework for the empirical testing of rational hypotheses about score meaning and theoretical relevant relationships. He presented 6 distinct aspects of construct validity. They are the content, substantive, structural, generalizability, external, and consequential. The content aspects are parallel to content-related evidence, which calls for content relevance and representativeness. The substantive aspect pertains to the theoretical construct and empirical evidences. The structural aspects assess how well the scoring structure matches the construct domain. The generalizability aspect examine how score properties and interpretations generalize to and across population groups, contexts, and tasks. Finally, consequential aspects pertain to the intended and unintended effect of assessment on teaching and learning. So Messi explained that there are two effects in assessing the students, which are the unintended and the intended, the positive and the negative. It states here that in a view of consequential validity, Messick explained that the social consequences of testing may be positive if it leads to improved education policies, or negative if beset with bias in scoring and interpretation or unethical use. The essence of unified validity is that the appropriateness, meaningfulness, and usefulness of score-based inferences are inseparable, and that the unifying score behind the integration is the trustworthiness of empirical grounded score interpretation. So in developing performance assessments, it involves 3 steps: define the purpose, choose the activity, and develop criteria for scoring. The first step is about determining the essentials, skills students need to develop, and the content worthy of understanding. To acquire validity evidence in terms of content, performance assessment should be reviewed as qualified content experts. So Moslak gave 5 recommendations in choosing the activity. First, we have the selected performance should reflect a value activity. Second, completion of performance assessment should provide a valuable learning experience. Third, statement of goals and objectives should be clearly aligned with the measurable outcomes of the performance activity. Fourth, the task should not examine extraneous variables. Fifth, performance assessment should be fair and free from bias. So those are the 5 recommendations when making an activity for your students. It could be performance activity, or it's up to you. So validity in self-assessment is described by Ross as the agreement between self-assessment ratings with teacher judgments or peer rankings. Studies in validity of self-assessments have mixed results. In my case, student self-assessment scores are higher compared to teacher ratings. This is especially true for younger learners because of cognitive biases and wishful thinking that lead to distorted judgments. Self-assessment ratings also tend to bloat when these contribute to the student's final grade. To increase validity, students should be informed of the domain in which the task is embedded. They should be taught how to objectively assess their work based on clearly defined criteria and dismiss any interest bias. Informing them that their self-assessment ratings shall be compared to those made by their teachers and peers may also induce them to make accurate assessment of their own performance. Now let us move on to the threats of validity. So in the book, there are 10 factors that affect validity of assessment results. There are factors that are defects in the construction of assessment, tasks that would render assessment inferences inaccurately. The first 4 factors applied to traditional tests and performance assessment. The remaining factor contains brief constructed response and selected response items. So we have here the first threats to validity: the unclear test questions. The second, complicated vocabulary and essence structure. Third, ambiguous statements. Fourth, inadequate time limits. Fifth, inappropriate level of difficulty of test items. Sixth, poorly constructed test items. 7, inappropriate test items for outcomes being measured. 8th, we have the short test. 9, we have the improper arrangement of items. 10th, we have the identifiable pattern of answers. So if we have the threats to validity, we also have the steps or ways to counter back those threats to enhance the validity of the assessment. First, we have the ask others to judge the clarity of what you are assessing. So we need to help we need a help from others to judge the clarity of what we are assessing. Check to see if different ways of assessing the same thing give the same result. Third, sample a sufficient number of examples of what is being possessed. So this is about the table of specification, the preparation of the table of specification. Fourth, ask other to judge the match between the assessment items and the objectives in the assessment. Again, ask another person to judge your assessment. Compare groups known to differ on what is being assessed. Compare scores taken before to those taken after instruction. Compare predicted consequences to actual consequences. Compared scores on similar but different rates. Provide an adequate time to complete the assessment. Ensure appropriate vocabulary, sentence structure, and item difficulty. Ask easy question first. Use different methods to assess the same thing. Use only for intended purposes. So those are the ways in order to enhance the validity in assessing. So validity is about how valid your test questions or your assessments are regarding to what you teach to your students. So that is all for my report, the validity in the chapter 4. Thank you.